He's going to tell us a story. It's going to be great. Thanks, Michael, for coming.
I don't like to argue with Harlan. I will tell you a story. The great part, I'll leave that up to you. Hello there. I have lived in the Willamette Valley for a while now. In fact, my wife Jerry and I are getting prepared to face our third winter in the Willamette Valley. We can't tell you how much we enjoy living here. The abundant green, the moderate temperatures, and for me, the most important thing, the best thing about it is what I call the six-string culture of the Willamette Valley. It's a culture that you are all a part of, and I am very proud to be able to speak to you about it. So my story tonight is going to be how Jerry and I found our way to this magical place called the Willamette Valley. I came from a musical family. My father was a concert pianist. My mother learned piano from him. my mother learned piano from him. My brother was a professional musician for a short period of time. And it was my father's need to get us all involved with musical appreciation. So he took his 15-year-old son, Michael, and brought him to the Bushnell Auditorium to show him an opera, The Barber of Seville. Now, if you want to infuse your son with musical appreciation, an opera is probably not the best place to do it. Sorry, Dad, but that never really took. Go Figaro, right? So the second attempt he had at musical appreciation was taking me to the Count Basie Orchestra, the same auditorium. Now we started getting somewhere. We had 30 musicians, a brass section, 2 complete drum sets, and I found something that I liked. However, I never became a jazz aficionado, even though when we lived in Tampa some years later, I did have a whole shelf of jazz CDs on my CD rack, and I knew them very well. I got to the age 17 and had my own car, and I suddenly realized that I was living in the middle of the Boston to Philadelphia folk circuit. I went to the Newport Jazz Festival, Newport Folk Festival, and the Mac Daddy of them all, the Philadelphia Folk Festival. I followed the music of Tom Rush and David Bromberg. It was just a really invigorating experience to live in that period of time, in that place, in that period of time. Then came work. And for 45 years, I lived in the Tampa Bay area, most of them with Jerry Almond, and every national touring group came. I could name them all, but I'll still say we had a Ford Amphitheater and Amalie Arena and Ruth Eckerd Hall, and 5 nights a week they were all filled up with national acts. And boy, did I enjoy living in that environment. I thought that I understood music from that perspective. Little did I know, there was so much more to learn. I retired and we bought an RV. We had a Class C RV. And we spent the next 5 years putting 50,000 miles on that RV. We camped in all 49 states in America. And guess what one of the driving motivations was? Northwoods Blues Festival in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Willie Nelson Outlaw Festival in Saratoga Springs. And of course, a revisit to the famous Philadelphia Folk Festival. What a wonderful way to learn more about music than to attend a festival in an RV. If you haven't done it, it is the only way to really get the most out of it. Come January of 2020, we decided that we were getting so good at this, we were going to trade in our Class C for a big Class A with 2 air conditioners, and the second one did come in handy during the summer months. And we set out to become full-time RVers. Our first mission, though, was to go on a shakedown cruise to Texas. Come back from Texas, figure out how we were going to trick out the RV and put our house for sale on the market. So we left in January 2020, and our first stop was the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Now, if you're following the timeline on this, February 2021 is when all hell and COVID broke loose, and Ground Zero was in New Orleans. We were surrounded by this threat, and this invisible threat, that was really starting to bother us. How close were we? We left New Orleans and 2 days later heard a news report that the National Guard had taken over the Bayou Signet State Park we were camped in and turned it into a hospital for New Orleans homeless people with COVID. We got to Texas and the rumors were flying, and you heard them, we all lived through this. We would be quarantined. We wouldn't be able to get back to Florida. We get back to Florida, I don't know, they'd lock us up for a month or something. It was a terrible time. And the only thing we knew what to do was what all nomads do when they're faced with a period of stress. We ran. Now, we weren't doing 2-week trips and seeing all the sights and everything. We switched to 1-month stays. We stayed a month in Durango and a month in Taos, New Mexico. We came up with a plan that to avoid COVID, we would keep going up 10,000 feet in altitude and down 100,000 people in population every month. We got to our next stop, Cripple Creek, stayed there for a month, and then we went on our way to Leadville. What is missing from this story? A big thing is missing. We went almost a year without hearing one note of music. I was beside myself. My ears were starting to dry up. They were gonna fall off. I didn't know what to do. We got to Leadville at 10,290 feet. Bright sunshine. I was setting up our rig in the RV corral right in downtown Leadville, and I heard, unbelievably, I heard guitar notes skittering on the mountain air over this red fence that was right across the street. Now that same day that I was setting up my rig in Leadville, there was a guy named Rob who woke up in Redmond, Colorado. Now Rob made his living on a hollow body guitar. He played 6 months of the year in Colorado resorts, entertaining the tourists there, and then another 6 months of the year in Jamaica, entertaining what I imagine were the same tourists in different clothes. He woke up that morning with a determination. He had been driving a tour bus in Steamboat Springs. He was going to pack up his guitar, his microphone, and his amplifier. He was going to go find a place to play. He drove to Leadville and parked at the Pastime Bar and Grill, right across the street, ironically, from the RV corral. Had the same wooden boards that were laid out in 1869 that the miners and the cowboys walked on. It was a classic Colorado bar. He went in and asked if he could play. Certainly not. We have community protocols for COVID. We don't allow anybody to play in here. They had even taken the cushions off the bar stools. If you wanted to drink at the bar, you'd have to stand up. He said, but we have a deck out back, and you can go out there and do anything you want to do. So he did. And his siren call of guitar music drew us across the street. We wound up with beers in our hands. Going out to the deck and listening to Rob with another couple. A few minutes later, Kevin, our bartender, went off duty. He walks out the back door holding a canvas bag full of harps. Kevin and Rob started jamming. A few more people came in, more beers were poured, and then this 60-year-old Native American guy with long flowing gray hair, another singer, entertainer from Leadville, joined in. We now had a full-fledged jam with about 18 people who hadn't heard a note of music in the last 6 months. It was probably not the most wonderful concert I ever heard, but probably the music concert that I appreciated the most because of the circumstance and the time. Well, we continued on our trip, and we went to Flagstaff, Arizona, spent the winter, Desert Hot Springs. We got vaccinated and eventually wound our way up to the Willamette Valley. And there, we met the most amazing group of people. And a lot of them are right in this room now. I call it the six-string Willamette culture. Amazing conglomeration of competitive and cooperative musicians. The music starts at 4 in the afternoon, goes well into the evening at a number of different venues. You know, truly a remarkable thing. I've never been to a place that appreciated music the way people do in the Willamette Valley. And I am so happy to be here. In fact, I brought a little bit of mountain sunshine to pass around for you to look at. And to finish with quoting David Crosby when he said, "Music is love." And it is. And no longer am I going to be spending my money chasing arenas and festivals and big events, because music is love. It's live and it's local, right here in Willamette Valley. Thank you. By the way, I've done a lot of storytelling. I've never done it with a glass of beer, but Harlan said I had to do it. So I hope you appreciate the way I worked that into
Y'all give it up for Michael Hanna, the great Willamette Valley storyteller right there. Thanks, Michael. That was really good. All right, everybody, we're going to get Gregarious up here. This is the second one that got worked out.
Has this been turned off?
Not yet.
No.